Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sports Today. We are at the Bodh International Circuit for a pretty fun event. And for those of you who are Formula One or motorsports fans, this is something that is going to be something that you hopefully will enjoy. And we also have a lovely interaction with you featuring a former Formula One driver and current commentator, Karun Chandok. Karun, thank you so much for joining us first and foremost.
Thank you, and lovely to be back here at BIC.
Yeah, thanks. You actually just took away my first question from me. But what's it like being back at the BIC for this event, the Motor Jam, Red Bull Motor Jam?
I think I'm the luckiest person here. There's lots of people walking around, but only one person got to drive the Formula One car today. So I feel very privileged, very honored. I honestly didn't ever think I would get a chance to drive a Formula One car back in my home country on the circuit again. So very thankful to be here. And also a special car, the car that won the Grand Prix here in 2012. So it's been a great day.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. I mean, we know that the current engines are different. What was it like sitting in this with this particular sound coming, the revs of the V6s? How was that?
It sounds amazing, didn't it? I mean, you tell me. You were listening.
It was great. It was great.
Yeah, exactly. I think I think for the fans especially, when you hear the car, when you hear the cars go past, it hits you in the chest. The sound of it. Certainly in the car, of course, it feels amazing. So no, it was just a great experience to be able to drive around here. Nobody else here, a track to myself, the car to myself. I'm a very lucky boy.
Speaking of the fans, obviously fans have been waiting for an F1 return in India for years, and we're now finally getting to hear that could potentially be happening. How big a boost do you think that would be if it could actually happen?
Hey, listen, it'd be great to have the Indian Grand Prix back. It's something which I think for F1 fans here would be, of course, amazing to see a race in our home country. But I think, for the sport on the whole, having India on the calendar again would be great. So there's a lot of steps that need to happen. But I think for any big project like this to happen, you need somebody with the motivation and the passion and the will to do it. I only saw some media reports. I saw Mr. Adani speaking at a forum somewhere, I think. And it was nice to hear of his personal fandom for the sport. He's personally passionate about the sport. And that's always the first spark to somebody wanting to take a project forward. So fingers crossed. I certainly will do everything I can, if I can help in any way to make the project move forward. I'd love to help. But there's a few blocks that need to be crossed first.
Absolutely. Also, there's been a lot of focus in 2026, new engine regulations, is that we have seen a few drivers complaining as well. But let's be honest, do you think is this something that are just teething issues, or do you think the drivers can actually force some sort of a change or tweak to the kind of regulations we're seeing? Because there are a lot of complaints, Max Verstappen being one of them, that, listen, it's a bit like Formula E at this point in time.
Yeah, to be honest, I understand the complaints from the drivers. From a purist standpoint, the drivers want to drive flat out all the time. Really, in Formula One, that hasn't happened in the races for many, many years or ever. They've always been managing fuel or brakes or tires or whatever. It's more about qualifying that they feel they're not getting that ultimate one lap. And from a purist perspective, and as a driver, I sort of understand where they're coming from. But it is what it is. And, I think we have to give the sport a chance. We have to give the season a chance. Ultimately, if we have 3, 4, 5 drivers fighting for wins and you have 2 or 3 drivers fighting for the championship, that's what we want. It'll be entertaining.
Speaking of, who do you think would be the title favourites basis what you've seen so far in Formula One pre-season?
I think at the moment Mercedes looks strong. George Russell, to me, starts the season as a favourite. He's got the experience. He's got the speed. We saw last year he makes very few mistakes. For me, he starts the season as a favourite.
Absolutely. Also, there's been a lot of focus on Lewis Hamilton. The fact that he's come back this year again for the second year of his contract with Ferrari. He seems happier. Is that going to how do you think is going to translate to potentially results? Because last year, it's fair to say Leclerc wiped the floor with him.
I think we have to see as the season unfolds. I think testing is testing, but racing is a whole different story. So let's wait and see. There are very positive signs coming out of Lewis from testing, which is good. But the rate of development of the cars this year is going to be so high. The cars are going to change a lot. Teams are going to change a lot. The drivers are going to learn and adapt a lot. And so it's impossible for us to say who's going to be strong and who won't be. I think we could probably say the top 4 teams are still going to be the top 4 teams, but we don't know in which order. And honestly, I think that's great. we don't want to know who's going to win. We want to stand here and say, I don't know who's going to win in Melbourne, right? That's what we want.
One more question. Of course, there's going to be a lot of focus from India, aside from the races, on the fact that you've got someone in Indian origin and Avid Dindan who's going to be racing. Obviously, someone who comes through, a lot of promise. How do you think he's going to be facing? Because again, he's debuting in what's arguably the worst season for a rookie. So much change, and now he's going to have to learn a lot.
Yeah, Avid's an intelligent kid. I think that's the first step. It's a championship this year where the smart drivers will benefit. They need to think a lot more about the strategy and the way they drive around. But I think on the whole, the bottom line is, at the core, he's a fast racing driver. I've known Avid since he was 14 years old, since he was racing go-karts. I've known his mother, Anita, and his father, Stefan, for many years. And they're lovely people. And I wish him all the best. And it's great to see another driver of Indian heritage on the grid.
Yeah, it's actually a bit historical considering Narayan, you and him. Do you think that's something that will actually help boost interest even in India going forward, considering the race is still yet to actually officially come back?
I don't know. I think if I think back to when Narayan and I raced in F1, there was a purple patch around 2010-11. We had 2 drivers. We had Force India as a team. We had the Indian Grand Prix. That was a real highlight. We'll see.
Thank you so much for joining us, Karun. Thanks. And don't forget, like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned to Sports Today for more such interactions.